Podcast Answer Man, episode number 188.
Entertaining, educational, and encouraging content that makes a difference.
This is GSPN.TV.
Join the community.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Answer Man. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft, and today I am excited because, well, actually, I should be more excited than I really am, but I am excited to a certain level. Should be more, just want to say that. But anyway, today is the day that I celebrate 5 years in podcasting. That's right, my friends. It was December 16th, 2005, 5 years ago today, that I absolutely released my very first podcast episode out into the internet wild. It has been a very, very interesting journey since that first episode went online. And I recall recording that first episode. And if you want to hear just how different I sounded 5 years ago, I just happened to have an archive of all the shows that I've recorded. And I'm just going to go back to December 16th, 2005. And the show that I started out with, it was called Generally Speaking. That's right, Generally Speaking. And this is how bad I sounded back then. Here you go.
This is Generally Speaking, a podcast production of Cliff Ravenscraft and Friends. Hello and welcome to the show. This is my very first podcast for Generally Speaking. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft. I'm in Hebron, Kentucky, and I just want to go over with you a couple things to get this thing started. First off, I want to talk to you about the format of the show. I could not decide whether or not I wanted to do another Lost podcast that is 100% all Lost-related items, just like various other shows that I'll mention in just a moment, or if I wanted to do a technology-related podcast, like many of them out there, or if I wanted to do a faith-based podcast like some other podcasts out there. The thing is I'm definitely passionate about the TV show Lost. I'm also passionate about technology, and as far as faith is concerned,
all right, so there we go. So basically, it was 5 years ago, December 16th, 2005, that I put that podcast episode out there, and I told the world saying, hey, you know what? I can't decide what I want to talk about. I have so many different things that I'm passionate about, but here are the 3 big ones, and I remember the original idea. The original idea was that I would record a podcast on a weekly basis called Generally Speaking, and it would be a general topic podcast, and every episode would have a particular topic. So I wouldn't mix up, it wouldn't be a general podcast in the sense that, I talk about various different topics in the same podcast. But like, for example, I remember explaining to people in that episode saying, hey, the very first episode, it's going to be related to Lost. So it'll actually say 001 Lost the name of the episode. And the other one might say 002 technology the name of the episode, or episode 003 faith the name of the episode. So the idea is that, hey, subscribe to this one single podcast called Generally Speaking. And if you don't want the faith stuff, then when you see those download, delete that and all that other stuff. And of course, the very first episode ended up being more about the TV show Lost. And then the second episode I did was about the TV show Lost. And I brought my wife and our next door neighbor in, and we had a group discussion about Lost. And the third episode happened to be about Lost. And before we knew it, we had, I remember my wife's first comment when I tried to get her to start. She goes, yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. I mean, who's going to listen? Just, maybe 5 other people, or, you'll be lucky if you get, and I thought to myself, I'd be lucky if I get 50 people to listen. And it turns out that a couple thousand people found our podcast as a result of the Lost community out there. And we had several people who said, listen, I'd be willing to send you money if you'd be willing to make this devoted to the TV show Lost. And you could use the money, if you'd use the money to improve your audio equipment to I'd love to help you out. And so we started out as a hobby. And I guess you could say, while originally my concept was to have, to talk about my various different passions, you could say that we got our start with, starting a show about the TV show Lost. And it didn't take very long before I started my second show. I think the second show may have been, actually, I can look this up. I have an episode guide, which, by the way, today we've released more than 2,400 podcast episodes here at GSPN.TV. More than 2,400 episodes. And that's a lot of passion, let me tell you. Now, if you go to gspn.tv/episode guide, that's gspn.tv/episode guide, all one word, that'll bring you to a place where you can see a Google Doc or a Google spreadsheet that lists out most of the shows that we produced. And you might see on there, there's as I'm reading it, there's only 2,379. Of course, I got 7 more podcasts to add on there today. But there are several shows that aren't listed in this list. I used to do a show called Net Junk, and we had several other shows that, they really aren't, they're not something that I really put into the archives. So, there have been more than 2,400, but I'm looking real quickly here. And I see that we started December 16th, 2005. And the second show that I ever did was episode number 1 of a show called My Crazy Life, which I did back in March of 2006. And in fact, I'll tell you what, it might be interesting to hear just what that show sounded like. So give me 1 second. Okay, I found it right here. And this right here is my very first episode of My Crazy Life from March 16th, 2006, and this is what it sounded like.
Hello, everybody. This is Cliff Ravenscraft of the Generally Speaking podcast. In fact, I would like to announce that I'm actually officially now coming to you from the Generally Speaking podcast network. If you get a chance sometime, you might want to go and check out www.generallyspeakingpodcast.com. And you'll notice that I have done a little bit of work lately trying to start up a Generally Speaking podcast network, which is currently a network of 3 podcasts. Most people listening to this are probably already aware of my weekly Lost edition of Generally Speaking. And I have been doing that now, I think, for 12 weeks, and it is exciting. And in 12 weeks, we've gained over 5,000 listeners and just have had a phenomenal response. And I never would have dreamed it possible, but I can't tell you how pleased I am with the success of that edition of Generally Speaking. After getting involved in the Lost edition and its success, I had toyed.
All right, so there you go. There's that. And of course, I think there's one where I think the second episode I did, and I actually sang, was it did I sing the theme song to Would You Be My Neighbor? Let's see if this is it. Oh, this is really, really bad, by the way. By the way, and I share this with you for entertainment purposes only, and as something you should never, ever, 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 ever do in a podcast. This is really bad. Seriously, you'll see. Okay, so should I forward a little bit, maybe? Actually, here it comes now. It's really bad.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood, a neighborly day for beauty. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I've always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's just make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please won't you be my neighbor? Hi there, podcasting neighbor.
I cannot believe I did that. Oh my goodness. The My Crazy Life podcast, it was amazing. And in fact, episode number 6, the title of that episode was interesting. It was titled Sex and the Vagina. That was a good episode. I think Stephanie joined me for that.
Hello, everybody. This is Matthew Ravenscraft. You're listening to My Crazy Life with my crazy dad. Here he is with Ravenscraft.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to My Crazy Life, coming to you from Hebron, Kentucky, in our home studio number 7. Actually, no, we only have one studio. I'm joined this evening with my wife, Stephanie Ravenscraft.
Hello.
And we are coming to you with a very anticipated episode of My Crazy Life. And the topic of tonight's discussion is sex. And we have...
So there you go. Stephanie joined me in the studio for My Crazy Life episode number 6, and of course, we did several episodes of My Crazy Life that Stephanie would come in and share some thoughts, and we did plenty of shows about marriage and oneness and all this other great stuff, and of course, we eventually started a show where Stephanie and I did a show together called Family from the Heart that started about 3 years ago. Yes, Matthew did introduce that episode, but of course that was pre-recorded. Anyway, My Crazy Life was a show that I produced 396 episodes of all the way through March of 2009. So 396 episodes were out there. And then I decided crazy after years of podcasting under the brand My Crazy Life, I changed the name of it to Pursuing a Balanced Life. So podcast episode number 397 was the very first episode that I did where it had the new name. Today, there are 482 episodes of Pursuing a Balanced Life online. This is, by the way, this is a show that was all about me sharing just what I'm going through in life. Whatever the highs were, whatever the lows were, whatever, just about anything and everything that has gone on in my life. I just had this desire to share it with others. And that for me, that's what podcasting is all about. It's about taking what I'm experiencing, what I'm learning, and giving that information to others to let people know that, number one, you're not alone. The chances are if I'm facing this, there's chances are somebody else is facing these same things. But also, it was a great way for me to document what's going on in my life. And if my kids ever want to go back and hear it, I know that my mom has old diaries of things that that my grandmother, my mom's mom, wrote in her diaries, and I know that my mom has lots of brothers and sisters, and each of them have some of that information. Well, this is a way that my kids can go back and just hear some pretty exciting stuff. And over the years, like I said, more than 2,400 episodes, more than 24 different podcasts that we've produced. And to be honest with you, I tell you what, I had somebody ask me in the chat room before I got started here today, and they said, "Can you believe it's been 5 years?" And a part of me wants to say, well, yeah. In fact, so much so that I can't believe it's only been 5 years. I am literally at that place today where I can hardly remember what life was like before we podcasted. I mean, our lives have been so, we're so used to sharing things in a podcast that, I mean, it's the idea of us not podcasting is so foreign. And it's kind of like, once McKenna's 5 years old, and she just turned 5 a little earlier this year, back in April. And, it's like, can you believe she's, 5 years old already? And it's like, well, I can't ever remember life without McKenna. I mean, it's that kind of feeling. And so, podcasting is a big, huge part of my life. And this morning, or not this morning, but this afternoon, we did episode 139 of Family from the Heart. I'm just scrolling up and just confirming that, yes. Episode 139 of Family from the Heart. And Stephanie and I talked a little bit about celebrating our 5 years of podcasting. And actually, we talked a lot. I think I talked more than she did. But anyway, one of the things that I certainly shared was, why do I podcast? What is it about podcasting that draws me in? And of course, it's mostly has to do with the idea that, number one, I can make a difference in the world. And it sounds crazy, but I do. I have a desire to make a difference in the world, to actually change the world, to make the world a better place. I feel that that's something God has laid on my heart, that He wants me to live a life that leaves a legacy. And, there are some things, of course, I would just encourage you to go over to podcast. If you're interested in this and you want to hear what two people, a husband and wife that have been podcasting together for 5 years, what it sounds like after 5 years of just reminiscing over the years, just do me a favor. Instead of me trying to recreate all of that here, go to familyfromtheheart.com. Again, that's familyfromtheheart.com, and click on episode number 139. And I'm actually going to put a little note in here to remind myself to do FFTH 139 link. And I'll put that in here in the show notes for this episode, because I want you to hear how we shared it. Because the one thing that if I had to say that I'm most proud of, is the fact that over the course of the last 2 years, I know more than 100 people around the world who have lost anywhere between 60 to 100 plus pounds as the result of thinking differently about our physical health and getting serious about pursuing a balanced life. And how a single person, or even a single family like my wife and I, and sharing our family's journey and pursuing a more balanced life and eating more healthy. There were several times when some people was like, man, I totally love this whole topic of organic food. You guys are so passionate about this, but dude, can we kind of move on behind the, Family from the Heart's it's becoming this organic food podcast. And it's like, well, just bear with us. We're making a lot of changes. We're sharing a lot of things that we're changing. But here's the thing though. It was something that was on our heart, and it was something that it was radically changing who we were, how we eat, how we take care of our bodies. And as a result, over the course of, a year, Stephanie loses more than 60 pounds. I lose more than 50 pounds. And it's not just us, but it's so many other people. And of course, there are so many emails, so many letters, so many postcards that people have shared that say, hey, it may sound a little cliche, it may sound weird, because I know you don't know me, but I listen to you all the time. And people who write in and say, your content, your podcasts have changed my life, have made a positive impact on my life. And just to give you an idea of why would I think it's even possible? Why would I just dream up this idea of leaving my full-time career and podcasting full time? It was people that would call in, like Jenny H, who actually called in and left us a voicemail like this right here.
Hi, my name is Jenny, and I'm from Rochester, New York. I'm a mother of a young son, and I work full time, and I spend a lot of time listening to GSPN podcasts. I started listening because I was into Lost, and I was looking for Lost podcasts, and I can't believe what I found in GSPN, and just the inspiration and sense of community that I feel by listening to their podcast. I really feel connected to Cliff and Stephanie, and it's really important to me, and I think it's changing my life. It's inspiring me to live better, and I'm just so thankful for all that they do, and that's why I'm a Plus member, and I'm really proud of that fact.
All right, and so that was Jenny H, and here's just another one, and I've got a whole bunch of these kind of voicemails that have come in over the years, but here's another one that really inspired us.
Hi, my name's Anne, and I'm from Germany, and I'm a GSPN.TV Plus member because, honestly, I couldn't imagine living without Cliff and Stephanie anymore. They are such a huge part of my life now, and they have changed my life in so many ways. I mean, a year ago, I was not communicating with anyone, and now I have so many friends. I've gained so many friends through the community that Cliff and Stephanie have built, and listening to their podcasts, I can laugh. I can sometimes cry with them, and it is so much fun. And even though right now I'm studying and I don't have time to keep up with all the content that is being released, but it's just, Cliff and Stephanie have literally helped me find my way back to life, and so Plus membership is just a small way of thanking them. And so if Cliff and Stephanie have changed your life, and I know they have, please become a Plus member, because Plus membership rocks.
All right, so there you go. Obviously, if you go to gspn.tv/plus, there's a bunch of testimonials on there of people who say, you know, hey, this is why I support the content that Cliff and Stephanie produce. And I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for our Plus members, we would not have been able to make it to where we are today. And there's so many different people that Stephanie and I have to thank for where we are today. It's our Plus member, our community. There are several sponsors like Mardel.com and Contemporary VA and some other, divineoffice.org that came about and helped us make a trip to Boston, and just so many other valuable things that have taken place in our lives. You know, Pro Audio and the equipment resales that I've done through them, and all of you who are subscribed to my mailing list, who buy my digital training products, all my clients who have ever hired me to teach you one-on-one. I mean, it's just been out of this world. I mean, I can't even tell you that I would have ever dreamed any of this possible. I mean, I felt the call to do this, to take the risk, to leave my career in insurance behind and to do it. I had no idea how I was going to make it happen. And to see what has happened in the last 5 years, and then of course the last 3 years of me doing this full time, it has been way more than I ever dreamed possible. I'll tell you what, I do have a message about the 5 years here from David Jacobs. David, take it away.
Hey Cliff, Dave Jacobs, calling you from Costello Travel Cafe here in Portland, Oregon. I know as a fellow podcaster you will hopefully appreciate the ambient sound, but just, was on my phone and I read your blog post about 5 years of GSPN. Can't believe it's already been 5 years. I have been following you, as you might remember, from long before you were ever called GSPN, long before any of this grand adventure you have gone on took place. But I followed you closely all the way through the birth of GSPN, your dramatic change of career, so courageous and bold. I've been around podcasting for a very long time. I was one of I call myself a second wave of podcaster. I've been around for a while, Cliff, and I've seen a lot of things, and you're one of the very, very few people who have actually taken on a career in podcasting and actually made it work. You really are making a living, and I tell you, there are so many people who have that dream, so many people who tried. You're one of the very, very few who have actually made it happen and continue to make it happen day after day, and that's truly a remarkable achievement. People have to know it's not exactly an easy thing. It's a rough road, and you're a trailblazer because there isn't a clear path to this podcasting career. You've cut the path probably for a lot of other people as well. So congratulations. Wow, what an achievement. 5 years, that's a really long time. You've been through an incredible journey. I remember all the ups. I remember all the downs. There have been a lot of interesting thin ice times, but you held tough and came through. I think you're really the embodiment of that phrase, follow your dreams and never give up. That's truly what you did. You followed the dreams, even when it wasn't clear, even when it was very risky. And you also didn't give up during the hard times, during the thin times, during those months we weren't sure how you were going to make it. I remember those times. And somehow you just pushed forward, kept your faith strong, and you made it. You made it. It's amazing. It's inspiring. I'm proud of you. I think it's amazing what you've done. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, David. And you know, as David leaves that message, and I was sitting there thinking, he talked about, you know, knowing how difficult it was in some of the tough times. And I remember, I think it was it might have been Seismic, or it might have been one of the other video sites that had just came out, or could have been, I don't know, it might have been Facebook Video when it first came out, the very first Facebook Video application. And anyway, I remember like at 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, I recorded this video, and I mean, I did not look healthy at all. I was up all night. I was doing some other stuff, and I was just like, hey guys, this is what's going on. I just want to leave you a message. And I was just like, this is how this is going, and this is how this is going. And I'm like, I am so tired. I probably shouldn't even be recording this, blah, blah, blah. And I remember some feedback that, David, you had left me at that point in time. And I just want to say thank you for your encouragement over the years. It's good to hear your voice again, and to know that you're still out there and that you're still following along. And I appreciate that. I really do. I mean, I literally, you know, a lot of this success that I've faced, it's not because, you know, I've just done it on my own. I've had a community of literally it started out as hundreds and then thousands of people who are consistently encouraging me, moving me forward with just the energy that comes from positive, encouraging feedback on a continual basis. And I am so thankful for all of those times. And by the way, he's right. It's not easy. And, you know, I ask myself, you know, there are a lot of people who try to make a living from podcasting. And I ask, you know, what is the difference? And I don't know that I have all the answers to that. And I don't know that I think about it a lot, but, I know for me, it's, you know, my success in making podcasting my career isn't all about just making podcasting my career. I think that for me, you know, podcasting, yeah, I definitely have what seemingly is an undying passion for podcasting. I love it. Literally podcasting has changed my life and has helped, and podcasting has helped me literally make changes in the lives of other people around the world, hundreds, if not thousands of people. And so I'm very passionate about podcasting. But it's not just podcasting, or at least, you know, the thing is, when I think about podcasting, I mean, technically speaking, podcasting is just something that, I mean, obviously you can just throw, you know, you can go to podbean.com if you want and just create a podcast, or you can go to Blog Talk Radio or TalkShoe.com and create a podcast. Creating a podcast is one, but there's more to it in my mind. And it is the community. It is the relationships. It is the heart and the desire to improve other people's lives, to take what I have and share it with others, and to give. And those are the things. And of course, I think a lot of, for me, is that, yeah, it's weird to think about this. I consider what I do to be a business. It is a, you know, in 2010, it's been quite the profitable business for me. Wasn't profitable that so much that first year, and second year it was better than the first. But this year, 2010, has been profitable. It's been a very profitable business. And I'll be honest with you, I struggle a little bit about how much businessy it's become, because there are times when I forget about where my true heart lies in what got me into this. And it really, believe it or not, is that I'm involved not just in a business, but I'm involved in a ministry. This is a full-time ministry. This is something I felt God calling me to do. Not that I'm saying that I felt God calling me to live a life of podcasting, But God called me in 1996 to do ministry, to share to share His good news of faith in Christ and the message that He's laid on my heart there. To always be prepared to give a reason for the hope that I have, and to do so with gentleness and respect, to encourage one another daily as long as it is called today, so that none of us will be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. We have come to share together, if we hold firmly till the end, the confidence that we had at first. So, I mean, there are so many things on my heart that God's called me to, and for those of you that don't know this, I used to be an associate pastor of a small church, and I officially dropped all positions within any church. Not to leave the fellowship of the church, of the local church, because I haven't, but to actually pursue where I felt God calling me to devote my life to ministry. I felt a call to full-time ministry back in 1996, and at the time I was still working as an insurance agent, and I told my parents when they hired me as an at their insurance agency, family-run insurance agency, I told my parents, I said, listen, as long as you understand that one day, if I have the opportunity to do ministry full-time, I'm leaving this place to take that opportunity, even if it means that I make less money than I would make here. And they said, okay, that's fine. We respect that. And of course, I worked in insurance for 11 years, did ministry part-time on the side and stuff like that. But what happened was, I found that through podcasting, and specifically between my Lost podcast, my Crazy Life podcast, which is now Pursuing a Balanced Life, and my About the Church podcast, between the three of those, I was doing ministry, I was reaching more people with my ministry, if you will, to the world than if I would have had a church of 10,000 members. I had more at that time. I had well over 10,000 people a week listening to me. At the height of everything that we've done, my voice was heard by 60,000 people per week. And not that, I mean, there are times, I'll be honest with you, there have been times when, that kind of got to my head, and I remember being a statsaholic and really getting all excited about that and thinking about, how can I grow this? How can I become more popular? How can I do this? And God certainly, laid some stuff on my heart. In fact, if you want to hear some of the ups and downs and the emotional and the spiritual journey of this, My Crazy Life is one way to go back into the archives, but man, go to almostdailydevotional.com and listen to especially go back to some of the earliest episodes of Almost Daily Devotional. And man, you will hear the anxiety and the fears that I faced, doing all this. But I think what has led me to success is a couple things. Number one, passion. And I'm reading this off of the list because I have looked at this list quite a bit. Passion, a little bit of talent that God has given me to do technology and stuff of that nature. Determination. I was determined. There's nothing that's going to keep me from being successful. I had already burned the boats when I arrived on this island. I'm like, listen, there's only one way off this island, and that's success. And success or death. Self-discipline, I didn't have very much of it when I started, and I built and developed that over time. And I certainly had no doubt in my mind in my faith that this is what God wanted me to do. And again, I'm not saying that God called me to quit my job so that I can podcast full-time. But what I knew is God was calling me without any doubt in my mind to be a source of entertainment for people, to be a source of education, to teach people the things that I have learned and what He has shared with me and what life has shared with me, and to be a source of encouragement and to be a source of inspiration. And I recognize that I could have done that as a pastor of a church. I could have done that as an insurance agent, and I could do that as a podcaster. And to be honest with you, there are a lot of different things. But when I sat down and thought about it, where would I have the most effectiveness in my life to be a source of entertainment, education, encouragement, and inspiration? It would be through podcasting. And that's when I made the decision, not knowing how on earth I had no business plan. I had nothing. None of this stuff was in my mind of how I was going to do it all. But through this journey, I am where I am today. 5 years later, after recording that crazy podcast called Generally Speaking, it's been an amazing journey, and I'm so thankful for it. All right, let's move right along in my podcasting notes here. Thoughts on my massive okay, so here's the deal. Remember I told you that I've been thinking about the fact that it's been a little businessy lately. And of course, I feel like, I've got this mailing list and so, I've been putting out a lot of notes about, hey, this webinar is coming up, and hey, this webinar is coming up, and this digital product's now ready to download. And I felt like, man, I'm just sending out so many marketing messages. Where's the relationship? Where's all the stuff where I just give away free value and things like that? And then like, I think about all the stuff I give away for free, but sometimes I feel like, man, am I trying to soak all this up too much? And I don't want to take advantage of that. Well, anyway, I've just been, I shared early when I started the music here, I shared that, I should be more excited than I am. I had strep throat last week, which is why I didn't release the podcast episode. And I was down for 4 days. And if you don't follow my story outside of Podcast Answer Man, you may not know this, but my virtual assistant that I hired back in January of this year, which has been basically a majority of the factor in my success and the profitability of my business, and how much work I've delegated to her and the relationship of trust that I've had with her built over the last year. I found out, at the beginning of this month that she was leaving, and then all of a sudden, the same day that I find out that I have strep throat, I learned that not only was she leaving not just at the end of the month, but she had to leave immediately, and she left the firm that I had a virtual assistant through. So I had a lot of things really hit me all at once last week, and I'm really struggling to get things caught up this month. And of course, here we are halfway through the month, and last month was the most profitable month ever. And here we are halfway through this month, and I'm like, oh, how am I have no creative juice, no creative energy. My motivation levels are as low as possible. Well, okay, maybe not as low as possible. They're at one of their lowest points. It's just been a really terrible week this week, to be honest with you. But I'm making through and I'm getting through. And yes, in spite of all that, I am very excited about the 5 years. But at the same time, yesterday, the only thing I should have told everybody last week that, hey, Thursday, December 16th, it's a live show Thursday. But hey, it's not just any live show Thursday. We're celebrating 5 years in podcasting. And I should have sent all that stuff out last week. And of course, I was sick as could be. There's no way I could have got it out last week. So yesterday, I'm sitting there trying to write this email that I would send out to my email newsletter list. And, to let people know that, hey, I'd love to have you guys join us to celebrate. We're going to be having this live show all day long, and would love to have you join us to be a part of the celebration. We'd love to see you in the chat room, stuff like that, hang out. And so I spent like forever trying to word this thing, and I couldn't get it. So I picked up my iPhone and I used the front facing camera, created a little 3-minute and 44-second video clip of me just talking about it, just getting it off my chest, say, okay, here's the deal. This is what we got going on. And then I put it together as a YouTube video, uploaded it, created a screen cap, and shot it off in an email. Now here's the thing. I have 2 different mailing lists. And I sent out one email to the GSPN list, went out to several hundred people, and sent one out to Podcast Answer Man. Now, a lot of people are subscribed to both lists, and I've sent out a lot of emails since October. For me, it's a lot. For most email marketing people, definitely I've not sent out a lot of emails. But I sent out 2 emails yesterday, one to each list, and each message was individually unique. I sent one to GSPN folks, and then there was additional information that wasn't in the GSPN email that was added at the end of the Podcast Answer Man, but they both had the same screen capture, and they both pretty much started the same way. Well, I had this mass exodus of people who were unsubscribing from my mailing list yesterday. In fact, one very close friend of mine, I saw that he unsubscribed from the list, and I said, hey, I just want to make sure I didn't do anything to offend you. Matter of fact, I just realized after seeing this unsubscribe thing, that I hadn't heard from you in a while. He says, oh, no, it's nothing you've done. I've got a lot of things going on right now and stuff like that. I hope to reconnect with you, in the new year and stuff like that. He says, I just got spammed with these emails today. And I'm like, Wait, is it spammed with these emails? Dude, I sent an invitation to celebrate 5 years in podcasting. I wasn't asking you to buy something. I was just, and so it's just like weird. I send this one email and I make a majority of it to where it's not this big long written thing, but it's a video. I go out of my way to make it even more personal, and I get like 10 times more unsubscribes. Well, normally I don't usually get very many unsubscribes at all. But man, I sent out an invitation to come join me to celebrate, and I think I probably received about 15 unsubscribes yesterday out of a total of about 1,100 people total between the two lists. But I think where what happened, and where people maybe got it was a little off-putting, was the fact that I have a mailing list for GSPN and I have a mailing list for Podcast Answer Man, and a lot of people are on both lists, and they got hit with both emails within an hour of each other, and I think that that's what happened. But oh well, you live and you learn. If you have more than one list, my friends, don't send an email that's just like the other email to both people, because you might lose a couple people off your mailing list. All right. I'll tell you what, I have another topic that I want to go into. Actually, let me go ahead and share that one, and then we'll get into the other stuff. The next topic I want to share with you is, one of the things that I've learned in my podcasting, as far as the way that I like to podcast, is that I want to have sincere passion for the topic that I'm podcasting about. People have asked me oftentimes in the past, is like, how do you come up with content for all these different shows that you produce? And a lot of people says, well, what if let's just say, I've had this one before. I'm a real estate investor, or I'm a real estate agent. I don't know which it was, but it was one or the other. But anyway, this is my occupation. This is what I do. And I've created a blog, and I'm thinking about creating a podcast. But before I create a podcast, I'm not sure what to do, because I have this blog all about real estate in this area, and I can never think of a thing to say. I'm like, chances are you're not that passionate about what it is you're doing for a living if you can't think of a thing to say. I mean, nothing comes to my mind. But anyway, for me, my suggestion is always to podcast about things, or to blog about things that you have sincere, deep passion for. And I think that that's one of the things that has brought a lot of success to the things that we do. And once I lose passion for something, I pretty much, I wind things down, or if I've run out of things to say. And I'm actually getting ready to wrap things up for one of my podcasts. If you listen to the Virtual Assistant podcast, I'm definitely not losing my passion for having a virtual assistant. It's just that I think I've exhausted all the things I have to say about it, with the exception that, 2 weeks ago, I got hit with some pretty radical news that opened up a whole brand new journey of what do you do when your virtual assistant that you've had a whole year of building a relationship with and pretty much understands you and your business so well. What do you do when that person leaves and now you have to find somebody new and train them? So I do have some new content, at least for December. But from where I'm standing now, that's actually going to it's actually moving in a really positive direction, and I see that I'll probably be have everything back up to speed when it comes to my delegating tasks to my assistant by the end of this year, or at least the first week of January. And with that in place, I'm going to be back to where I was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, when actually week after week I was running into an issue where it was the day before, podcast day, Thursday, it was Wednesday, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to share tomorrow on the Virtual Assistant podcast. And to be honest with you, I don't even want to look up anything. And again, it's not that my passion for having and the usefulness of a virtual assistant has dissipated. It's just my passion for talking about it has been exhausted. And so, I've made the decision that either by the end of this month or the end of January, that show, I'm going to be wrapping it up. And it's a very successful podcast, and one with a very willing sponsor to continue sponsorship. No doubt in my mind about that. But there comes a time when it is, you just know. You just know that it's time to wrap things up and start in a new direction. And I already have a new idea of a new podcast that I want to create, and more about that in the near future. Hey, I have, let's see, 11 minutes yeah, I can do this. 11 minutes. You're going to get an 11-minute audio clip, which is going to give me plenty of time to just take a breath here and breathe. All right, so this is a clip from Dan Miller's podcast last week. You can check out Dan Miller's it's 48 Days online radio show, 48days.com. Dan Miller happens to be a good friend and a client of mine, and he has a very interesting story about his opening music, which, by the way, he uses the music Taking Care of Business by, I think is it Bachman Turner Overdrive? Anyway, check this out. This is good. This is a great story. I think you'll enjoy.
I also want to just bring you up to date on this issue of me using Taking Care of Business as the lead-in for my show every week. Now you know the song, you hear it all the time. There it is, that old Bachman Turner Overdrive song.
Do you love your work?
Taking Care of Business.
Possible?
I mean, I've been using that for a long time.
It's time for 48 days to the work.
And love it. And it's become kind of a trademark for the 48 Days podcast. Now, here's the history of that. When I was on the radio, I used that. I mean, one of the producers pulled that out, and we were using a variety. I mean, we used to use Monday, the Mamas and Papas, Can't Trust That Day. I mean, there's a whole lot of songs that talk about the agony of work. Matter of fact, I just did a blog this week about the history of songs, 16 Ton, and What Do You Get Another Day Older, and Deeper in Debt, but Dolly Parton's 9 to 5, This Ain't No Way to Make a Living. I mean, most songs talk about the agony of work. Now, Taking Care of Business talks about just that. We're going to take care of business. Now, I love that song, and I love the way that it's been identified with my podcast radio show prior to that. But when on the radio, here's the issue when it comes to licensing a song. A lot of you ask me about that. How do you get away with using a song that is actually a regular licensed, produced, copyrighted song? How do I get away with doing that? Well, on the radio, any radio station pays a fee. They're going to pay an annual fee to ASCAP or BMI, one of the licensing organizations that gather fees from any place that plays music publicly. So if you have a Victoria's Secret store and you play music that people hear when they come in, you're going to have to pay an annual licensing fee. When I had a health and fitness center, I paid an annual licensing fee to ASCAP for the right to play that music. Now, it's something that, most business owners resent it, frankly. They think, well, if it's on the radio, it ought to be free. But no, it's just part of the process. That's how artists get paid for producing music, in addition to actually selling CDs. If Chevy uses Like a Rock in one of their commercials, obviously the people who wrote that song get a lot of money as a return for them being able to use that song in their commercial. So I pay. Anybody pays. I paid as a business owner when we had a retail, a place where public people could come in. We paid an annual fee. The radio station pays that fee. So if I have a show on the radio station, it's covered under their licensing umbrella. However, when I moved away from the radio station, having my own podcast, I moved out from under the umbrella of the radio station. So it becomes a new issue. But it's a strange issue. It's an issue that the record companies are still scratching their heads about trying to figure out. Obviously, 2 months ago, I contacted ASCAP and BMI. I said, this is what I'm doing. I'm using the old Bachman Turner Overdrive song, Taking Care of Business. I use 58 seconds at the beginning of my podcast, 33 seconds at the end. What are the licensing issues there? Now, this is complicated a little bit more by the fact that nobody pays for the podcast. I'm not producing a product that I sell. It's just out there in cyberspace. It's just a public service. But there still is the fact that I am using that song. ASCAP and BMI said, you know what? This doesn't really relate to our licensing agreement. You need to just settle that with the publisher of the song. All right? Publisher of the song is Sony. They gave me the name of the guy to contact for licensing agreements at Sony. I contacted him, left a voicemail message, for about 3 days, didn't hear anything. I emailed him, contacted him again, finally talked to him, and I have 9 pages of interaction with Sony. that I've tracked. I wanted to make sure that I was tracking every contact. And I told him exactly what I'm doing. I'm using a short clip at the beginning. He says, okay, let me check it out. Again, a couple weeks go by, don't hear anything. Get back with him. He says, well, we're checking with our people in LA on that. I'll let you know. Didn't hear anything. I finally called Sony and I said, look, I want to talk to somebody besides this guy. I won't give his name, but this guy that I've been talking to. They said, okay. So I left a message with another guy. And then the first guy got right back to me and he says, hey, I really am working on this. It's just something that we are having a hard time trying to figure out. Now, you would think that this is a really common issue. I mean, how many people out there? There are thousands and thousands of people doing podcasts where they want to have a little music intro, music outro, use music clips in the podcast itself, whatever. I mean, there's a whole lot of that going on. You would think that they would have their kind of systems established at this point for, okay, this is what it's going to cost you. Boom, 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 this is a monthly fee or whatever. It was very complicated. And we're talking Sony. I mean, one of the biggest music companies in the world out there, if not the. And we went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Again, I just had another, like a 2-week delay, no contact. And I finally wrote to him and I said, I know that this may be too small of an issue. And I talked to some of my music industry friends in the interim who told me, it's just one of those little deals. They said, most of the time we just ignore it, tell them to go ahead, just use it. It's probably just viral marketing for us. And we just don't even have a system to address what you're describing. Again, I'm using 58 seconds of taking care of business, a little clip that I created. It's not the beginning of the song. It's one we kind of stripped out of the middle where they go into the chorus taking care of business. 58 seconds and then 33 seconds. Here's what I finally got back. Sony says, would you be okay with $100 a year? I said, yes, I would be thrilled. I would be delighted, ecstatic. It's wonderful. Now, I wanted to go through and actually push this issue so I would have some kind of a precedent to share with all of you who asked me about that. So that's the deal. I'm going to continue using Taking Care of Business. And I'm going to pay $100 a year as a licensing fee, which I think is stellar. I mean, I think that's great to do that. So I said, send me some little kind of an agreement that just shows what we're doing. Boom, I'll send you a check instantly. Let's make this a done deal. So it can be done. Now, the reason I wanted to share this and go into more detail than perhaps is necessary is because it is an issue for so many of you who are doing podcasts. Now, I also use Music Bakery a lot for music, and the music that I have on CDs that I resell and all that. I really don't want to stir things up and have a licensing agreement and have to pay royalties every time we sell an audio CD. That I really don't want to do. So on audio of No More Mondays or 48 Days or Turning Passions into Pleasure or Profits or Is Your Job Your Calling? I mean, all those things, I have music, but I just purchase a little segment. I mean, you can go to musicbakery.com. They have thousands and thousands of things that you can draw from. You pull what you want, and if I want a 30-second clip, it may cost me $20 for that. It's a one-time fee, and then I put it on my CDs, and it's a done deal. I mean, that's just how they're set up, and I think it's a wonderful service to provide. I mean, I've had a lot of people over the years send me things. I mean, Chris Seal from Tune Plant has a great company. They do bumper music. They create music to go with commercials. He's sent me some samples that he's created, some wonderful stuff, but it just didn't have that same kind of grab you that Taking Care of Business does because it's so recognizable. You know, I've had other people as well, and you've heard I've shared some of the things that people send me. This is Alex.
Welcome to the 48 Days to the
Remember
Work
this
You
one?
Love internet radio show with Dan Miller, who, for the next 48 minutes or so, will share his experiences and provide you with advice on how you can add value to your working life and so bring positive changes and a positive impact to other areas of your life as well. So whether you're working for the man or whether you're working for yourself, sit back for the next 48 minutes and let Dan do the work and show you how you can say goodbye to those Monday morning blues. Here on 48 Days to the Work You Love with Dan Miller.
Now, again, I love that. I love the creativity of Alex to go ahead and do something like that. And I think over time we could really use that as part of the brand. But this is like in my writing, I've always used a lot of quotations. So if I have something in there from John F. Kennedy or from Socrates or Aristotle or Abraham Lincoln or Benjamin Franklin or Zig Ziglar or Brian Tracy, whoever it happens to be, I mean, there's an instant implied credibility by connecting your writing with the writings of somebody who is obviously famous and well-known historical figure. Well, the same thing is true, in podcast. I mean, it carries a lot more weight to have taken care of business than to have something that we just came up on our own or something that was created that nobody ever heard of before. Now, I think over time, you could create that kind of connection to a little musical ditty or some kind of slogan that's put together. Certainly nothing wrong with doing that, and that's the way most podcast people do, incidentally. To just avoid this issue altogether, just purchase some made-up music, and that's perfectly fine to do that. But I wanted just to share the details of what I did there and to confirm that you can get this done if, in fact, there is something that you want to use. And you can do it legitimately. You don't have to just try to stay under the radar, hope that nobody ever notices. That's what I did not want to do. I didn't want to just continue doing this and then have somebody, come knocking on my door with handcuffs. I'm sure it wouldn't be that dramatic. But you hear about, some of the record companies are really going after people that are like sharing musical files online. There have been some real dramatic cases where people have been fined astronomical amounts of money because they in fact did that. I didn't want any gray area there at all, and I've always said that this is a gray area, but I've been trying to get clarification, and finally I did. $100, I'm licensing, taking care of business. Hope that's encouraging and clarifying for those of you who are working on similar kind of issues.
Well, I will tell you what, my friends, it is certainly encouraging for somebody like me to hear that story. Now, of course, your mileage may vary with this various different kind of, record company that you might be working with or the music company. The deal here, though, is it's about persistence. It's about definitely trying, not trying to fly under the radar, understanding the important thing of understanding that, hey, you do need to work out something. There has to be some kind of agreement before I would recommend ever using any kind of music like that. And I love this. I love this idea that he's helped set a precedent here. So I mean, you can actually say, hey, check this out, 48 Days to the Work You Love, 48days.com. Here's a link to this podcast. Now, Dan Miller worked out a thing for $100 a year. He's licensed this one song. Is there some kind of similar arrangement that I can work out with you? And I can certainly see the benefit of doing that for a very popular, very well-known song like Taking Care of Business. Now, I mean, that had become a part of his brand from back in the radio days. And so certainly, I think this could be helpful to you. And I think Vicky in the chat room is right. You never know what you can get for just asking. And so you just got to be willing to ask. And of course, I think $100 to use a song that is that recognizable and to have that be completely legal and legitimate from this point forward, absolutely awesome. Very cool stuff. So I thought that you might be interested in that. Hey, another thing from Dan Miller. I've got another 1 minute, 30-second clip, but this is about something completely different, and this is a cruise that Dan Miller's talking about. Check this out.
Don't forget to check out the cruise. The cruise idea, now that we're getting closer, is really coming to life. Got all kinds of people raising their hands and saying, count me in. I want to be part of that. Actually added 4 or 5 additional people we're going to have as speakers, presenters. We've got 3 full days at sea on the No More Mondays cruise come up in February. That's going to be February the 12th to the 19th. It covers Valentine's Day, so we're going to do some things specifically related to the romantic day, Valentine's Day, for couples. So I'd love to have you join us as a couple. But in addition to Melinda Schmidt and Alvin Schlatter and me as speakers, we're also adding Pierce Mars, who you know from the 48 Days community. Others like Joel Bogus, Cliff Ravenscraft, our podcast guy. He and Stephanie are going to be joining us and do a presentation. West Connor, pharmacist, health guru, is going to be with us. And then my friends Dave and Paula Foster, Dave pastors a church here, and he and his wife do a program called Making Marriage Fun. Again, it won't be all focused on marriage, but it'll be focused on a lot of how to blend work and play. And in doing so, I mean, that does integrate our relationships. How do you have successful relationships in addition to a successful business? So check that out and join us for that.
All right, so there you go. And of course, that's just a little clip. That is the No More Mondays cruise. If you want more information, I would love to invite you guys to come on to the cruise, especially if you're in the area of doing your own thing, a small business entrepreneur kind of guy. This is going to be great, especially if you're married. Bring your spouse along. If you're not married, you can come alone. But it's going to be 7 days on a cruise where people are going to get together and talk about blending work and play. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of value in hanging out with other people and sharing ideas, and the amount of inspiration and encouragement that will come as a result. I know this is going to be something that Stephanie and I are going to definitely enjoy. And we would love to invite you to come with us. And it is basically going to be... again, in February. If you want more details, do me a favor, email me. I'll get you in touch with all the information that you'll need. Again, that's cliff@podcastanswerman.com is the best email address. And one last piece of feedback that I want to play here is Andy's little note here.
Hi, Cliff. This is Andy from geocachingpodcast.com. I just wanted to call in a little thing for you. I did my first webinar this last week. I hosted it, and it went great. It was awesome. And then I went ahead and also recorded it and edited it and released it as a digital product today. And I also had my first sale on that. So it was amazing. And all of this is thanks to your inspiration. You taught me all about passive income, and it's been great to do it. And I kind of get a smile now every time a little email comes in and says I had a new sale. So I just wanted to thank you for that. And you're doing an awesome job. Keep up the awesome work.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much. I am so glad to hear that, Andy. And of course, if you guys want to check it out, I did an entire webinar on my successful podcast, or not podcast, but a webinar and digital product workflow. You can find that over at podcastanswerman.com/products. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up here for me today. Already yet again over an entire hour of podcasting this week. So, hope I didn't bother you too much with my playing the clip from where I sang several years ago. Never again will I do that. That was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Surprisingly, I still made it beyond that day. So people still listen to me afterwards. I don't know why, but they did. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being a part of this community, and we'll talk to you again next week. God bless.